Hi folks, Sty again. Are you ready for another Sty story? One quick sip and we'll get on the way. Now, one thing I'm going to address real quick, and we'll start the Sty story, is I got a couple of questions that were emailed to me that were the same question basically. People noticed in some of my latest videos that, especially the one about pocket knives, that when I'm handling the pocket knives, and one mentioned that when I'm taking a drink of coffee, they see that I'm shaking. And they're asking, are you all right, Sty? I go, why do you shake like that? What's going on? Are you okay? Let me put everybody to rest, okay? I shake. That's all there is to it. I shake. I've shaken like that when I'm holding things. There's times that'll start to shake. If I go to write, I don't shake. If I put my hands to purpose, I don't shake. But doing casual things with my hands, I'll shake. Now, I've been doing that since I was about 30 years old when it first started happening. And then it got to the point it's at now, by the time I was 35, and it's been there ever since, forever. Excuse me. For the life of me, I can't remember what the medical term is for it. It's something or other tremors. I do remember the tremors part. We were concerned, my ex-wife and I at the time, we were concerned, right? Holy smokes, has he got early onset Parkinson's disease because of that shaking? But I had no other symptoms. It just shook. I would shake. And people would ask, why are you shaking? It makes people nervous when they're around me. Wow, look at them shake. So, of course, I went to the doctor and they did all the tests, and then some more tests. Then they tested the tests and blah, blah, blah. And between 3 different doctors, they came up with the exact same diagnosis. That it's something or other, blah, 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 tremors. And if it gets bad, there are some treatments for it, I guess, in the form of prescriptions, pills, more pills. Sorry, Sty's not going there. Until I'm shaking so bad that I just can't function. The shake comes in handy if I'm shaking hands. I don't even have to work at it. It does not interfere with anything I do, the shaking, except if I'm having a really strong bout of it and I fill my coffee cup too high, I can splash some coffee. I don't like doing that. Don't waste the coffee. So that's what the shaking is. It's not a debilitating thing. It's they said I'll just have to live with it the rest of my life, and they said that I'll learn to live with it. Well, I have. It seems that others haven't. I still have family members that go, "Oh my gosh, look at you're still shaking like that." Well, of course I'm still shaking like that. They said I'm going to shake like that the rest of my life. So let's get on with this Sty story, shaking or not. This Sty story is winter gear in 1964. It's that time of year. It's December 9th. Up here in northern Wisconsin, it's chilly. We got snow. It's cold. Everybody's talking winter gear. What's the best winter gear? Should I get this? Should I get that? Should I wear this? Should I wear that? What's the best? Well, back in 1964, when I was growing up, we're going back a ways, our winter gear back then, and we seemed to do just fine with it. Got by just fine with that winter gear. One thing back then was looks didn't matter. It was functionality. Is it functional? Well, this guy's story has a couple of props. One thing we had for winter gear in 1964 is our rubber boots. Our rubber boots were the buckle-up type of boots that you wore your street shoes in, and you just buckled up them rubber boots, and they're supposed to keep your feet dry. And while in the winter, then you put on a heavy pair of socks and your street shoes and your rubber boots, and out you went. Okay? One thing that wasn't so nice about them is they were pretty wide at the top, and snow would get down in them. You're always taking your rubber boots out, dumping the snow out of them. But otherwise, they were functional. Except they had a tendency to crack, get holes in them. They'd start to leak, and your feet would get soaking wet. Well, then they come up with the boots that are just slip-on. No buckles. Well, those you didn't wear shoes in. We liked those boots. So you just put on heavy socks and slip your boots on and go. They had the same problem. They'd crack and they'd get holes in them, they'd leak, they'd get snow down in them, and your feet would get soaking wet, and that's when your feet got cold. Well, we had a cure to that problem. Bread bags. Bread bags. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard about that. Oh, the days when they used to use bread bags on their feet. My mother had this cloth thing, that big long thing that hung in the kitchen, and every time we'd go through a loaf of bread, she'd take that bread bag, stick it in the top of that big long, it looked like a big sock, and she'd stick it in the top of that, and just keep sticking them in there all year long. Come winter, at the bottom of it, there was a hole, and the first bread bag be poking out. Come winter, when we needed bread bags to put over our feet, just before we stuck our feet in the boots, we just run in the kitchen, yank a couple of these out of her holder, and we're good to go. Now, there were some drawbacks. One drawback is sometimes a person would forget to turn them inside out before they stuck them in that sock thing. So you'd grab them, and you're a kid, you don't think. You slip them buggers on, and then when you're done playing outside for 4 or 5 hours, you come in the house, you take your boots off, and you pull the bread bags off your feet, and you've got breaded feet. All the breadcrumbs that were in that bag are now in your socks. Or, here's the other drawback. You turn it inside out before you put it in that holder so that you don't have the breadcrumb problem. Now you got a new problem. These bread bags, even today, the warmth and the moisture from your feet sweating while you're out there will take the labeling off of the bread bag, and it almost permanently adheres it to your white socks. So come spring, you had a lot of white socks with Master Bread or Tasty or Hostess or you name it, every kind of bread, buns, anything. But that was our boot liner in 1964, and it worked just fine. We didn't have anything else. Nowadays, everybody just panics over what are we going to put on our feet. I got to go out and buy a $300 pair of boots. It's winter. For us, it was Mom and Dad buy us a $3 pair of rubber boots. Rubbers. Hey, That's what we call them, rubbers. Then they had the little half rubbers that you wore over your shoes just when it's raining. But I'll never forget, whole new meaning nowadays. But when I was growing up, you started heading out the door, it's wet outside or winter, you'd hear your ma yell at you, "Hey, don't you be running off without your rubbers. You ain't going anywhere without your rubbers. Don't worry, Mom. I never forget my rubbers." So, boot liners. Now, there's one other item that I want to talk about of winter gear from 1964 that was of great value, great value. Now, in October of every winter, or every year, my folks would run out and buy every one of us a brand new pair of mittens. And we'd be so happy we got brand new mittens. Somebody was stealing mine because by Thanksgiving of every year, I had no mittens. I don't know where my mittens went. But there were plenty of mittens. We had plenty of mittens. Socks. We used socks for mittens every winter when I was growing up. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing the dexterity you actually have wearing a pair of socks for mittens. And us kids, we didn't know any better. We thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Hey, I need a pair of socks. I'm going outside to play. My mom would always say, grab the old socks. Don't you dare wear your good socks as mittens. Well, the nice thing about it is you put a pair of socks in your pockets and a pair of socks on your hands, and off you went. You're all playing in the snow. The only problem was is when ice would build up inside your sock palms, you get these ice balls, and you'd have to pull the socks off and beat them on your boots or on a tree, knock the ice off of them, put them back on. And once they got soaking wet, where they just wouldn't keep you warm anymore, you take them off, shove them in your coat pocket, pull that fresh pair out, put a new pair of socks on your hands. Sock mittens. Awesome. But the best part was there's nothing worse than getting snow up the sleeve of your jacket. Just like getting it down the neck of your jacket. It's terrible. You get that snow up past your elbow and you're just, oh my gosh, I'm cold. I gotta go in the house. Not with sock mittens. You don't have that problem. Never had problem with snow getting up my sleeves and being too cold, having to run to the house, because these doggone sock mittens, they go right up to your elbows, for crying out loud. That snow gets up the cuff of your jacket. It's got to travel past your elbow before you ever feel it. You never had that cold snow hitting your skin up the sleeves of your jacket. Nose diving into the snowbanks, sledding, having a heck of a good time, hiking around out in the woods, playing around. And your hands were warm, and your arms were dry and warm. Couldn't beat it. Couldn't beat it. Couldn't ask for any more. And of course you used all of last year's socks for mittens. Because come Christmas time, everybody had an aunt who give the kid socks. That's all he deserves. Little did you know, you really needed the socks because you're using your other socks for mittens. That's it. That's Stye's take on winter gear in 1964. The only thing that went with that was a good stocking cap. And if you didn't have a good jacket, that meant you wore t-shirt, another shirt, usually a pullover, another shirt on top of that, a sweater, and then your thin little jacket, and off you went. And you looked like the great pumpkin walking on the road because you had so many layers. But we stayed warm, and we stayed outside. We would play for 5, 6, 7 hours outside with the winter gear in 1964. Kids today, I've seen kids, they got the highest end gear you've ever seen. You get them outdoors, sledding or playing, just playing outside. They last maybe a half hour to an hour, and it's cold. I want to go home. Never dreamt of it when I was a kid. It was, we're getting a little cold, but boy, the last thing we want to do is go home. We're having too much fun. Gear wasn't as important as just being out there and enjoying every minute. So we made do with what we had. One thing I do have to say though is my mother was insistent. Don't you ever head to school wearing them socks on your hands for mittens. They'll think that we're dirt poor and that we don't care about our kids. Same goes for church. Don't you ever show up to church wearing them sock mittens or having bread bags sticking out of your boots. Don't you do it, boy. Yeah. Otherwise, we were right at home and very happy, and sock mittens and bread bags in our boots. Life was good. And it can still be. All we have to do is experience it. Truly experience life, and you'll find that all the best things in the world don't always come with a price tag. So there you go. There's a Stye story for you. Winter gear in 1964. It's the way it was. Thanks for watching, folks. Hey, pounding out these Stye stories. I got a huge list of Stye stories. So I still want your input, more ideas. I'm getting some great ideas, and just keep them coming. Keep them coming. I keep that list building. If I look at it from the point of view, Stye won't go away until this list is done. That'll encourage you folks to keep giving me some ideas, and we'll keep the topic videos rolling, and we'll keep the Stye stories coming. So until the next one, hey, as always, Stye can't help himself but to tell you, you all have a nice day. Bye-bye.